Hello and welcome to this HTI interest group webinar, Finding Search Filters for Study Design, using the ISSG Search Filter Resource. As we wait a few minutes for further participants to join, I will share a few slides with you about the society and on its interest groups. HTI interest groups are open to all members of HTI, and they act as a forum for HTI members to network, exchange information, and collaborate on projects of mutual interest throughout the year. Visit the HTI website for more information on our interest groups. HTI membership holds many benefits, including HTI premier events and specialized interest groups, free online access to the International Journal of Technology Assessment in Healthcare, HTI resources and news, including e-newsletters, bulletins, and international development in HTA. Full access to the HTI Educational Officer database, an international network of HTA experts, innovators, and influencers, and a community that's dreaming, shaping, and championing the future of HTA. For more information, on membership benefits, please visit our membership page on our website. And please do not forget the upcoming HTI 2023 annual meeting that will take place in Australia at the end of this month. During the annual meeting, there will be a high-quality presentation and opportunities to network and connect with the global HTA community. Visit the HTI annual meeting website for more information. We kindly ask participants to remain muted until invited to ask questions. Alternatively, please submit any question through the Q&A function of the Zoom meeting platform. Thank you once again for joining us today. I will now hand over the microphone to Amanda Oxon to formally welcome you and introduce the webinar topics and speakers.
Thank you very much. My name is Amanda Hodson, and I'm the Vice Chair of the Information Retrieval Interest Group with HTAI. I'm joined today by my chair, Ingrid Harbo, and our guest speaker, Julie Glanville. For those who have not had the opportunity to hear Julie speak, you're in for a real treat today. And before we get started, as mentioned, we have our upcoming annual meeting in Adelaide, Australia this year. And in addition to our webinar series, our interest group is hosting a full day workshop on Sunday, June 25th at the annual meeting. So for those of you traveling to Australia for the conference, there's still time to register for our workshop should you be interested. So to tell you a little bit about our speaker, Julie Glanville, she is a highly experienced librarian with over 25 years experience working in systematic reviews. She is currently an independent consultant who focuses on research, advice, and training in information retrieval practices for systematic reviews. She's also a co-manager of the Sure Info resource, which we highlight on our special interest group page. She's also the co-manager of the ISSG Search Filters Resource, which she will be highlighting today. And this is a highly valued search tool used by information specialists and librarians around the world. Prior to working as an independent consultant, Julie was Associate Director at the York Health Economics Consortium in the UK, where she coordinated its information and review services. And prior to that, she was an Associate Director and Information Service Manager at the Centre for Reviews and Dissemination at the University of York, also in the UK. As mentioned, we are going to have Julie's presentation shortly. There will be an opportunity at the end of the presentation for a live Q&A session. That being said, should you have a question you'd like to ask during the webinar, please use the Q&A function, and we'll be able to stop it at points throughout the presentation and take some of your questions. So without further ado, I will turn things over to Julie Glanville. Thank you, Julie, and you'll be sharing your presentation with us.
Thanks very much. Thanks, Amanda, and thanks, Nicola. I'm just going to share my screen and hopefully we can begin. Hopefully you can see the screen, Amanda.
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Thanks very much. Hello, everyone, and thank you for attending this webinar. I'm going to talk today about finding search filters for study designs and achieving this through using the ISSG Search Filter Resource. Apologies. So this is the website. This is the homepage of the website, and you can reach it using the link below. I'm going to talk you through some of the features of the website, and then we'll do a live tour. So search filters, just so we start the webinar on the right foot, search filters are sets of search terms designed to find studies of a specific design. They are an essential tool in searching for the evidence, and they come in different shapes and sizes. They may be sensitive or broad, and these types of filters are particularly useful when identifying studies for evidence syntheses, such as systematic reviews and in guideline development. And over on the right-hand side of the screen, you can see some of the clinical study filters that have been produced by Haynes and colleagues. And what we're showing here is a couple of filters, one for therapy and one for diagnosis. And we're showing the difference between the sensitive and broad filters and the specific or narrow filters. And you can see that the terms are different. The specific narrow filters are precise. These are more useful for answering clinical questions because they will produce fewer records, and the records they produce are more likely to have a high relevancy. There will be fewer irrelevant records. So these are the types of filters that we use when we're producing evidence syntheses, and they're really useful because they represent the end result of a lot of work by experts and researchers. So usually filters like this that are trying to find study designs or particular aspects of healthcare have been developed using research methods and have been tested and often validated on gold standard sets of relevant records. So when we're coming to develop our own searches, we don't have to, if we don't want to, develop our own strategies for these types of topics. We can make use of the work done by other people. And these filters are often the result of, as I say, extensive research, and therefore are the result of weeks of work by a research team often. Other types of filters are the result of experts working day in, day out on health technology assessments and systematic reviews, and are therefore again benefiting from many years' experience of both filter development and also subject knowledge. So search filters help us to save time and effort, benefit from other people's expertise. The ISSG Search Filter Resource has been developed by a group of information specialists in the UK to improve awareness of methodological search filters, and also to provide other information about search filters. So, for example, how to critically appraise filters. Not all filters are as good as each other. We need tools to help us decide which filters are best for our particular purposes. So the site is designed to provide not only lists of filters, but also to help us understand filters better. The site does not include subject or topic filters. So if you're interested in search filters to capture specific diseases, so for example, kidney disease, our site is not the best place to come. Our site is the place to come if you're looking for filters to help you identify randomized controlled trials or particular age or age groups or geographic areas. The website is being actively managed and developed by an editorial team of UK information specialists. How do we find filters? Well, we look for filters using various techniques. We run regular current awareness searches in the big databases, Embase and Medline. We also screen tables of contents and current awareness lists, and any records that we identify that we think might be relevant for the website, we screen them for relevance, and those records that are eligible are added to the website. On the right hand side, you can see a list of the pages by topic of filter. So you can see these are all methodological filters for a range of study designs and publication types. So the site contains methodological search filters. It contains references to those filters with links to either the journal article or the filter itself where possible. Where we know that filters are being developed by a research group, we will also try to highlight that a filter is in development by including contact information. This is so that people can contact the filter developers for further information, but also if you are considering developing a filter yourself, it means that you're aware that other people are already working on this topic, and it might prevent unwanted duplication of effort. We also have several pages on how to design, how to develop, and how to use search filters for those people who are just getting into filter development work. And where possible, we try to highlight comparative data on filter performance. There are many filters available, and for some of these topics, there are dozens of filters available. And it's really challenging to know which filter is the best for your purposes. So researchers who have looked at the differing filter performance of filters have published papers on this topic are really helpful for us to make use of. It's much more time efficient to read a well-conducted performance review paper to help us choose a filter than to have to read dozens of filter papers ourselves. As well as the obviously methodological filters, we also include other types of filter. So we include filters that address particular age groups, such as children or the elderly, particular ethnic groups, geographic areas, and other topics that we think are more methodological than sort of disease related. So on the left-hand side of the screen, you can see some of the filters that we are providing links to. We do provide links to collections of non-methodological clinical topic specific filters or search blocks, and this is in a separate section of the website that I'll point you to on the tour. So I just wanted to highlight a few other features on the website. We've started recently to provide what we call launch options. What this means is if you click on the link, the search filter will load in either PubMed, Ovid, or EBSCOhost. So if you look on the right-hand side, we've got a section here of Embase filters. And down here, we have the signed search filter for this topic. This is diagnostic test accuracies filters. And here is the link to launch the sign filter into the Ovid interface. So if you click on launch, the filter will run, and you can then start to add in your own search terms, your subject terms to the filter. This is for Ovid, it's subscribers only. If you have a subscription to Ovid, the search will work. If you don't have a subscription, you won't be able to run the filter. We also add in links to comments and errata about the filters. And there are links to independent abstracts and critical appraisals for filters that have been written by ISSG team members and others. And on this example here, you can see a paper by Bachman and colleagues on identifying diagnostic accuracy studies in Embase. And here we have a structured abstract written by ISSG team members and a critical appraisal. If you click on these links, it takes you through to additional information, which might help you to understand the filter better and the strengths and weaknesses of that particular filter. Recently, we've been trying to provide additional performance data for filters which don't currently have performance data. So for prognosis filters, we have read all of the prognosis filters. We've extracted the performance data and we've provided the performance data visually in a separate web page. So in this picture here, you can see prognostic factors filters, the sensitivity scores for a range of filters along the bottom. These are the published filters, and these are how well they perform in terms of sensitivity. So you can see some highly sensitive filters and some studies where the filters have performed less sensitively. And for particular filters, we have both the data from the original filter results. So this is the paper produced by the authors. So this is the results from Ingui and colleagues. And then in other papers where Ingui's filters have been tested out, we have the performance of that filter in those other papers. So you can see a sort of a drop-off occurring in these two real-world assessments. So this is information that we've managed to identify and just present visually to help people to decide which filters they might want to use in their own research. We are trying to grow the site by recognizing the use of filters in new contexts. So filters are increasingly being included in systematic review software, either as built-in filters that allow you to filter results by study design. So I'm thinking in particular about software such as EpiReviewer, where there is a built-in RCT filter that helps you to load your results and then filter the results using that built-in filter. But also the growing use of machine learning, the growing inclusion of machine learning classifiers within systematic review and other software, where you can design your own classification process, your own classification filter. So we're starting to, as we encounter new built-in filters and also new software with classifiers built in, we're going to be adding those to the website as well. We are actively disseminating information about the site on email lists and in conference presentations and in webinars like this. And we also have a Twitter feed as well, which you'll see in a moment on the tour. So I'm going to give you a brief tour of the website before we take the questions. So I've gone to the website now. This is the homepage of the website. There's details about, on the homepage, there's details here about the history and the how the site is maintained. Here's our Twitter feed. And then on the homepage, you have the linking out, ways to link out to specific pages on particular search filters for particular study designs on the left, and then other topics on the right hand side. So here are the age filters and so on. And then there is also links to lists of the filters that have been added each year. So if you haven't looked for a while, you can quickly catch up with what's new by looking at these links. At the bottom of the home screen, you'll find links to pages which talk about search filter methodology and measuring the performance of search filters and the use of filters within database interfaces and machine learning classifiers. We also have a link here to collections of search filters that are about subject searches, so disease searches, for example. So if you're looking for disease searches, some of the sites linked to on this page may be useful. You can always tell when the site was last updated by looking at the bottom of the home page. We put in here the date we last scanned for new filters, so you can see how current the site is. So I'm going to go and show you some of the features on the individual pages. We'll have a look at the RCT's filters. So this is the page for RCT filters. The purple section at the top of each page is devoted to reviews of search filter performance. So these are reviews where researchers have identified all the available search filters and have compared them to try and identify which are the best performing filters. So it's always advisable to see if there are filter performance reviews if you're choosing filters, because this will save you a lot of time and effort. So this is a whole range of performance reviews for search filters, for RCT search filters. Then after the performance reviews, we have the individual search filters, and these are grouped by database. So the first group here is search filters to find RCTs in CINAHL, and the filters are listed in date order. So we get 2022 first. For any of the filters, there may be additional notes. So here there's a note explaining that the filter has recently been updated. And if we look at this item, we can see that again, the filter has been updated. There's a note about a filter update. There's a version of the filter that you can read in detail by clicking on this link. There's a search launch, which will launch the strategy into Ovid Embase, and there's a link to a correction. So for each of the databases where we found filters, we will list them here, along with additional notes and features that we've identified for any of the filters. If we identify comments, these are comments commenting on a particular filter or critiquing a filter, we will add those in as well. I'm going to show you I mentioned briefly the critical appraisals that we have included on the site. I've gone to the geographic filters page. Here's the performance section. But if we go down to some of the Embase searches again, we can see that there is an ISSG critical appraisal for this filter to find nice OECD countries, produced by NICE. So if I click on the critical appraisal link, you can see that Helen Fulbright and Claire Stansfield have provided a detailed critical appraisal of that particular filter, picking out the way the filter was developed, the way that the filter was tested and validated, and the performance data for the filter. So if these types of, if you're new to filter development, or you're new to how to critique a search filter, then this type of critical appraisal may help you to see what's important about filter design and what you should focus on when you're reading a filter paper critically. So it's quite an extensive set of questions about the filter. I'm going to leave that there. I'm now going to open up the session for questions, and I'm going to stay here in case I'm going to keep the website open in case there's anything I need to sort of demonstrate to answer the question. So I think Amanda's now going to see if there are any questions.
Yes, thanks, Julie. We do have one question already. We have a great question from Mayara Rodriguez Batista. She says, hello, Julie. Can we say that the sensitivity of the ISSG filters are better than the filters that already exist in the databases? For example, the filter for RCT by Haynes and the default filter in the PubMed toolbar and the default filter in Embase. Thank you. So
thank you. That's a really good question. So you're asking about the clinical queries filter and the built-in filters in PubMed. Those will feature in here. So you have all of the filters mentioned on the website, on this website, as well as in the filters. So what you're particularly interested, I think, then is in which perform best. So what you would want to do perhaps is look at some of these performance reviews to see how the performance of the filters, the clinical queries, and any built-in filters in PubMed compare to other published filters. So these, reading one or more of these would help you to get a better sense of the performance of the filters you can see in the databases compared to other filters that may be published elsewhere. I hope that helps.
Thank you. Yes, I see a thumbs up sign in the chat. So thank you, Julie.
Thank you.
And we have another question. Someone writes, this is a bit of a cheeky one. So do you use a search filter to look for the cited articles on search filters? So you mentioned a search update that's done. How do you go about that?
Yeah, no, I'm just trying to. Yes, we use a range of search. You can see that the way we look for. I'm going to the home page, and then on the you can find out more from the home page about our actual search strategies, which I'm hoping is going to. I seem to be a bit slow going through today. So how we keep these are the search strategies that we use to search for filters. So what you can see here is that these are general search terms. These are not citation searches. So one of the things that we certainly could do is do citation searches. I think we haven't done citation searches so far because many people cite filters, but they may not be developing. They cite filters because they've used them in their research, but they're not citing them because they're developing new filters. So I think the reason we haven't really done citation searching to keep up to date is because we would spend a lot of time just looking at published reviews and so on, where people are saying we use the PubMed clinical queries filter for this work, but they're not describing the development of a new filter. If we had more people, citation searching would certainly be a useful thing to introduce. Thank you for that question.
Thanks. So I have another question for you. If you use a filter in your search, where and how would you cite that filter? Like, how do we acknowledge maybe a filter we've used from this resource? Yeah,
thank you. So if I go back to another page, so if you decide, for example, to use one of the filters on this page for Embase to find economic evaluations, then if you had decided to use the Hubbard, the new Hubbard paired filter, you would in your search write-up, you would say we use the Hubbard search filter for economic evaluations as one component of our search, and you would then cite this reference here. So Hubbard, etc., BMC medical research methodology. So you have the paper, you cite the paper just as you would cite any other piece of research. I hope that's answered the question.
Yes, thank you. Great, thumbs up. Thank you, Julie.
Good, thank you.
So someone else is asking, hi, I see the notes acknowledging filter updates. Does the site team make any notes warning of subject or thesaurus updates that will affect the filters where the filters are not yet updated? So for example, NLM recently updated all of the population / race mesh, which does affect existing population filters.
Yeah, that's such a good point. Yeah, so we say at the top of every page, just before the individual filters are listed, we have this rubric which makes that very issue. So it says database indexing changes over time and new vocabulary may be introduced. So we then go on to warn people with older filters, please check the subject indexing to ensure that the subject indexing is still current, and if not, consider whether new vocabulary may need to be added to the filter. And then we also say, please note that if filters are amended, the performance may change from that published in the original article. So that's a crucial issue. If you are also, if you're using filters and making changes yourself, if you make extensive changes, the performance of the filter, the changed filter, may be very different to the original. So you should acknowledge that by reporting that you have amended the original filter. So checking older filters, and then if you do make changes, citing the older filter, but making clear that you have introduced new terms or changed terms, and maybe reporting and reporting what those changes were. Thank you. That's a very helpful question. Thank you.
Thanks, Julie. I'm going to ask my colleague Ingrid Harbo to select the next question. We're getting quite a few in the chat now.
Hello, thank you, Julie and Amanda. Let's see, I'll just follow up. Try to pick the next one. If someone uses or knows about the search filter that is not mentioned on your website yet, is there a way to submit this?
Yes, thank you very much. That's very helpful of you. Yes, you can always provide feedback to us by clicking on the link on the home page right at the bottom. So obviously we welcome information about filters that we haven't included, and we also welcome feedback on ways to improve the site as well.
Great, thank you. Yes, I find it can take so long to assess from the list, so I appreciate the ISSG group is doing appraisals. What are the most common factors that we should consider when assessing which filter to use?
I think the main issues to think about are, first of all, is the definition of the topic that the filter authors are reviewing, are providing, the same as your definition. So if, for example, you are looking for a systematic review filter, you would need to look very carefully at the filters to discern whether the filter was treating systematic reviews in the same way as you were treating them. So that's one really crucial issue. Is what you're interested in the same as a particular published filter? The other issue is then, has the filter been developed in a way that you think is adequate? And this revolves around things like the size of the gold standard set of relevant records that the filter has been developed from and tested on and validated on. Have they got a large enough set of records? Have the records been identified in a way that's likely to be unbiased? and then has the testing and validation process been separated so that the filters are tested on one set of records and then validated on a second different set of records. And then the other really important question is, how many records am I happy to miss? So you're really interested in the performance of the filter. So if you want a high sensitivity filter, you want a filter that performs well into the 90s, 95% upwards, because otherwise you're going to be missing relevant studies potentially. However, if you're prepared to sacrifice sensitivity because you're very busy or your clients are very busy, then you might be satisfied with lower sensitivity so that you identify more relevant records more quickly without having to look at so many irrelevant records. But it's really important, I think, to be aware before you choose a filter of what level of sensitivity it's performing at, because you need to have a view in your own mind about how many records you want to find or are happy not to find. I hope that helps.
Thank you, Julie. So you really have to consider which filter to choose.
Yes.
From each search. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, one more question. My colleagues, who unfortunately couldn't attend, have realized that very few Cochrane reviews use the embase.com RCT filter, Glanville 2019, and we're wondering about that. When preparing for the presentation earlier on, I realized that you mentioned in your article that it is not made for searching, only to complete central. Is that correct? Could you tell us more about that, please?
Yes, absolutely. So I'll just go to the site. So the Cochrane funded me and my team to provide a search filter to identify randomized controlled trials in Embase. Originally, we developed the filter to work in Ovid, but then Cochrane moved to using embase.com, so we converted it to run in embase.com. So the filters for Cochrane are designed to be really sensitive, and they were designed to identify reports of randomized controlled trials to be considered for inclusion in the central database. So they're designed to be very sensitive, but you can also, and they're designed to populate a database. However, you can also use them to search. You know, anybody can use them. They're just very sensitive. So we have, however, the strategies presented in the paper were not optimized for searchers. They had some features that were just designed to help with the central production. So recently we have, or a while ago now, we have edited the filters so that they're more usable by searchers. A lot of people found the version in this journal article confusing. So what we've done is we've provided a version of the filter for searchers for both Ovid and Embase from this link here. This has recently been updated some of the terms have also recently been updated to reflect changes in indexing. But here you have searches that you can cut and paste into embase.com. And here is the version that you can cut and paste into Ovid, or you can just click on this launch link and it will run the search into Ovid for you. So this filter, it looks slightly different from the published filter, but it's just been edited down to make it more usable by searchers. and it can be used by anybody who wants to try and identify RCTs in Embase. I hope that helps. It's got sort of, didn't mean to be a history, but there is a history.
Lovely, Julie. It's a lot of work behind these, behind the screen here. I can imagine. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, we actually have 4 minutes left. So I'll take one more question and then over to you, perhaps, Amanda.
Sure, sounds great.
Thank you. How would you properly credit a search filter you've used when there hasn't been a published paper?
Okay. Yes. So if we go to some of the age groups, for example, so here is so we're on the age specific filters, and the ISSG CHLA collaboration have produced quite a range of filters. So these are actually on a website. So I would cite these just as you would cite any other website, providing the information. Obviously, this isn't a full reference here for this example. So you would need to construct a reference that would look very like a typical website reference. I hope that helps.
Thanks, Julie.
Okay, I'll go back to the final slide so you can. So just to finally, thank you all very much for listening and for your many questions. And I just wanted to highlight again that we welcome feedback and suggestions through the site. Thank you very much.
I'm sorry, Julie. Do you have time for a few more questions?
Absolutely, yes.
That's
Would you like to read them,
Sure.
Amanda?
Sure. Thanks, Ingrid. Yes, we have a couple more questions. I don't think we'll get to all of the questions today, but thank you everyone for participating. And Julie will receive your questions after the webinar. So if any of you are wondering about that, she will see all of the questions. Someone asks, where do you think future work on filter development should best be targeted? Are there study designs, populations, for example, that you feel are neglected at present?
That's a really good question. Yes, I think that epidemiological methods is a really is a strange area, because you would think that it would be relatively straightforward to develop search filters for, but I really think there could be more search filters for epidemiological methods, epidemiological data. Let me just go back to the website so that I can look at some of the. I think although there are lots of filters for prognosis and prediction studies, I still don't think we have a very good handle on prognosis as a topic in terms of filters that we know perform really well. There's quite a few filters, but I think we need more of an overview, and also because prognosis is not just one topic. There are, as you can see at the top, there are 4 main types of prognosis studies, and we've got in this page all 4 going on, and really there's not enough filter research has been conducted on prognosis in my opinion. The other issue is that I guess for many topics there are subcategories. So if we think about economic evaluations, there are several different subtypes of economic evaluation and different types of economic modelling going on. And what we tend to have is just filters that cover all of them rather than specific designs. Now that's starting to change. We recently saw the cost utility filter be published, but there are not really the sort of specific filters for the more specific types of economic study that we see. And for example, burden of illness. Again, there are many types of burden of illness reviews that we can undertake, but the filters available are not very, there aren't enough filters available, I don't think. And I guess we don't have filters for, in the vast majority of cases, we need filters for databases other than Medline and Embase and Cinal. We could do with filters for other databases as well.
Thanks for that, Julie. Those are great comments. Just a note for everyone attending today, the recording will be made available. So there's been a few questions in the chat on that. I think we have time, if we can, for maybe one more question for you, Julie.
Sure.
And someone's asking here, do you include both validated and unvalidated filters? And if you include both kinds, do you indicate if one is validated or not? If validation was reported separately, do you link it to the original filter report? Same question for updated filters, if any.
Yes, so I'm on the age-specific filters page. So you can see here, I was mentioning the ISSG CHLA filters earlier. These are filters that are not in published papers. These have been produced by a group of specialists, but have not been tested and validated. So I guess you can usually tell which have been tested and validated because they will be in a published paper. Whereas if you don't see what looks like a journal reference or a report reference, then it's likely that they aren't validated. In terms of linking a filter with its validation, we rely on people reading performance reviews, which is where you will often find the validation information. The only place at the moment on the site where we've got the detailed linking of, I'm going to the prognosis page, where we've got the detailed linking of the papers and the validations, is on our prognosis performance data analysis, where we have not just the data, but we also have down here each of the filters, where it was reported and where it was validated. Now, it'd be really lovely to do this for all of the filters that we've got on the site, but this is obviously, as you can imagine, quite a large task. But for prognosis, at least, we do have both the original data information and where it's been validated. Here you can see the Hedges prognosis sensitive broad query published in 2 places and validated in at least 3 studies. Something about updated, Amanda. Sorry, you said updated.
Yeah, same. Is it noted if a filter has been updated? Can you tell on the resource here?
Yes, where we can. Yes, exactly. Where we can, we do that. So you will have seen that in the RCTs filters. We have notes about updating. So, for example, this is the Cinal filter for RCTs, where one of them where we've noted that there's been an update. And anywhere where we spot updates, we will note that. We will either note it's been updated, or if we've got a later date, we will actually sort of move it up this section. So, for example, if the BMJ clinical evidence strategy was updated, it would then, to this year, it would then move to the top of this section. So this section is in date order. Within each database section, the information is in date order. Hope that's useful.
Thank you very much. That is very helpful. So with that, I think we will wrap things up for today. Thank you very much, Julie, and my co-panelist Ingrid Harbo, as well as our HTAI rep, Nicola Vicari. Thank you all for attending today, and I wish you well, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you very much.